these placements will give you periods of instability, so that you may be warned that if you have any of these placements in your chart, especially, or that of the partner as well, then these periods are a watch out period for you, so that there is a continued stability in your marriage rather than disturbances. Hello, Namaskar and Adab to all my friends from your friend astrologer and guide Irfan, once more with you from your very own channel Astro Assurance. I've made a lot of videos on how in what circumstances you may meet your would-be partner, would-be spouse, whether the partner would be in a good financial situation, from a good background, whether the partner would be older to you know or not, and so on. However, one question that I have got at least a few times, which has been asked since I made those videos, is about, I have not talked more about instability or periods of instability in the marriage that people need to watch out for, because nowadays we find marriages are dissolving in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, sometimes even after going on for a decade or so. Especially new statistics show that women nowadays over the last decade or so are getting divorced more often in their 30s, and men are getting divorced in their 40s, obviously because of the age difference between the girl and the boy at the time of marriage, where usually women tend to end up getting married to men who are 3 years, 4 years, even 5 or 6 years older than them, in some cases even as much as 10 years. Getting married to people who are 15, 16, 17 years and above is still a rarity, though it is not something which is completely out of the box. So I am going to share with you some of the placements, and these I am sharing with you more on the request and with the thought that these placements will give you periods of instability, so that you may be warned that if you have any of these placements in your chart, especially, or that of the partner as well, then these periods are a watch out period for you, so that there is a continued stability in your marriage rather than disturbances. So let's get into and understand periods of instability, placements of instability, placements of stability as well, and what a couple needs to do at the time of such periods, and if you have such placements, to ensure that the marriage continues without too many disturbances. Now let's talk about the periods of instability in a person's married life, and usually this is more when both the partners to some extent are reflecting these placements rather than one. If one partner's horoscopic placements are fantastic, where the other person's horoscopic placements are very, very troublesome, then to a large extent they may have periods of instability, but the person who has fantastic placements may override or reduce the instability which the other partner is bringing. Hence, many a times I tell people who come for horoscope matching that please ensure, especially in today's time when there are so many divorces, when there are so many breakups, please check and do horoscope matching, so that at least you are aware of what kind of person you are getting into a relationship with, what kind of placements in your horoscope or the partner's horoscope will tend to bring about challenges in your future, and what you can do to avoid those challenging periods, and what you can do to curb them, and to be able to handle those periods with more patience, so that you don't end up getting into a placement where you are breaking up, separating, going your own way, or divorcing. For example, if you have two malefics either in the 4th house or in the 7th house, both of the planets are inimical to the sign that they are placed in. For example, for a Leo ascendant native, you have in the Scorpio sign in the 4th house both Saturn and Rahu, or you have one malefic planet in the 7th or the 4th house and one malefic aspect, malefic to the sign that you are talking about. For example, for a Scorpio ascendant native, you have both Mars and Ketu in the 7th house in the sign of Taurus, or you have a Neej Bhang between a debilitated planet and a debilitation cancellation planet in the 4th house or the 7th house, with a malefic planet which is either in conjunction with that Neej Bhang or aspecting that house. For example, for a Virgo ascendant native, you have a niche bhang between Jupiter and Mercury in the 7th house in Pisces. In Pisces sign, we know Mercury gets debilitated, and Jupiter getting into the 7th house with Mercury means it is debilitation, cancellation. It is seen as a yoga, a niche bhang yoga. However, there are still troublesome placements. These are troublesome placements, and this can bring in a challenging time period for the person, especially during the dasha or antardasha of Mercury. And if there is a malefic which is aspecting the 7th house from the either the lagna or the planet as aspecting the 7th house with a special aspect. For example, if Mars gets into the 4th house or the lagna and aspecting the 7th house with the 4th or the 7th aspect, then this can be a very troublesome placement, especially as for a Virgo ascendant native. Mars is a strong malefic planet. Now, if these are troublesome placements in the horoscope, which is the time when which can give you the highest period of instability? When is the watch out period? Now, normally if you have these placements in your horoscope or the partners or both, then there is a higher tendency that the trouble may not come only in a specific period, but every now and then there can be some needling, something or the other regularly happening in your marriage, in your union. However, it may flare up during these periods. Say for example, the dasha or antardasha of a malefic either placed in the 4th house or the 7th house is on, or the dasha or antardasha of a planet which is aspecting the 7th house or the 4th house, either with its direct 7th aspect or with a special aspect. For example, Saturn placed in the 2nd house will be aspecting the 4th house with its 3rd aspect, or Mars placed in the 12th house will be aspecting the 7th house with its 8th aspect. Then the dasha and antardasha of a planet placed in the 7th or the 4th house, as well as the dasha antardasha of a planet aspecting, these can be high periods of instability. And when the dasha of a planet which is in the 4th house and the antardasha of a planet which is in the lagna or the 12th or aspecting the 7th house with a special aspect is on, then these can be the periods of highest instability. Then a period of Sadesati, especially when Saturn is placed in your natal horoscope, in your D1 of birth chart, either in the lagna or the 2nd house or the 4th house or the 7th house or even in the 10th house. Because from these, Saturn will be either influencing the 4th or the 7th house or aspecting the 4th or the 7th house. For example, Saturn in the 2nd house will be aspecting the 4th house with its 3rd aspect, or Saturn placed in the 10th house will be aspecting both the 4th house with the 7th aspect and the 7th house with its 10th aspect. And because Sadesati is a period when Saturn will be going over Moon, if Moon is placed in any of these houses, then it is a period of very high instability, especially if there are malefics also placed in any of these houses. And there can be periods of slightly less instability when Moon is placed in either a preceding house to these houses or one house after that, which means a number of placements in the horoscope where Saturn Sadasati is on can give you periods of instability if both the partners have challenges in their horoscope, malefics placed in the 4th or the 7th house, or forming a relationship with the 4th or the 7th house, especially during the peak period of Sadesati. Then if you have malefics placed in the 6th, 8th or the 12th houses, the Dusthana houses, and the dasha and antardasha of those planets are on, as well as say the spouses, dasha antardasha of the planets which are the Dusthanas is on, then this can be a period of high instability. Now the periods of the placements of the biggest instabilities, which is a real watch out sign for people. If your Ketu in the 4th house and if your 7th lord gone into the 6th house, which means 12th to its placement or rulership of the 7th house, this is a big challenge. And people who have these placements generally, most often than not, either will have a break in their marriage life or they will have big upheavals in their marriage life, especially when Ketu return placement comes, when Ketu comes back to the 4th house or is traveling over or transiting over the lagna, the 4th house, the 7th house, then it can be a challenging period. This can also be a challenging period when Ketu is transiting over your 8th house, aspecting your 4th house with its 9th aspect, or transiting over your 11th house, aspecting your 7th house with its 9th aspect. Then Rahu and a malefic placed in the 7th house or your 4th house and the 7th lord in the Dusthana, this can also be a placement of big upheavals in your married life. Then a very troublesome placement, 7th Lord, in both your D1 chart as well as your D9 chart is in both the houses, in both the charts placed in the 6th house. Then this can become a placement of big upheavals, big challenges, and almost a guaranteed placements of trouble, if not a breakup or a separation or a divorce. Then another big placement of tough upheavals, 4th Lord in the 3rd house and the 7th Lord in the 6th house, which means both the 4th Lord and the 7th Lord are placed 12th to their rulership of the 4th and the 7th house. And then for women, Jupiter combusted, debilitated or retrograde, along with 7th Lord combusted, debilitated or retrograde. And for men, Venus debilitated, retrograde or combusted, and the 7th Lord combusted, retrograde or debilitated. Then this placement also almost assures you of big upheavals, big challenges in your relationship. Then if you have dosha such as the Vish dosha, either in the Kama Bhavas, which is the 3rd house, the 7th house or the 11th house, or the 4th or the 7th house, then this can also bring challenges. Or if you have even the Shrapit dosha, which Saturn and Rahu form together either in the 4th house or in the 7th house, then it can be a big challenge. And during the Shrapit dosha, which is either in the 4th or the 7th house, if Sadesati is also on during the same phase, when Saturn is transiting over any of these houses, then it becomes a big challenge, a big upheaval which may come in the life of the native as well as that of his partner. Especially there are malefics placed in the 4th or the 7th house of forming any relationship with these houses in the spouse's chart as well. Then if you are a Manglik, which means Mars is placed in an inimical sign, in an unfriendly sign, in either the Lagna, the 4th house, the 7th house, the 8th house or the 12th house, and another malefic place either in the 4th or the 7th house, this is also placement of very strong challenges to the married life, which may even threaten the breakup in a married life, sometimes even because of an untoward incident. So friends, if you or your partner or probable partners have any of these placements, so the period of the dasha and antardasha or transits of planets over these houses is a very, very important period where these can bring in bigger challenges of upheavals and will tend to, God forbid, move you towards such a upheaval which may lead to separation or even divorce. So be very, very careful during these periods, but in general, please ensure that you follow a life where you are more patient with each other and you are good to each other, so that when these periods come, they don't cause that much upheaval. If you are carrying a big baggage with you all the time, then even a small trigger can trigger such events which may not stop, and it may gather more and more dust, and there may be so much that you can't dust it off and will end up with so much baggage of challenges on the married life that it may tend to break. Now some good news, but don't take it for granted. If you have benefics, functional benefics, two functional benefics in both the 4th and the 7th house, then to a large extent your married life can be safe or will go through less upheaval, especially if it's replicated by the partner's horoscope as well. And if your benefics both in the Lagna as well as in the 7th house benefit to that particular ascendant, then too it will give you big stability because the mutual aspect is on. Then if you have exalted planets either in the 4th house and the 7th house with another benefic in any of these houses, then also to a large extent it gives you a higher chance of stability. But the biggest stability I have seen, for instance, almost 4 decades in astrology and at least 25 years of being very, very active in doing astrological consultation, what I have seen is I have seen a changing trend. In the last 10 years I have become more careful of such placements which about 25 years back I would not give too much importance to, because the times have changed. Desh Kal Patra has come into effect, because of which more marriages are tending to break up now. And the irony is it is the women who are initiating more divorces than men earlier on, for whatever reason. I don't want to get into the reasons for that, but this period is of big upheavals. People are not so scared of changing partners, and it was a taboo period of taboo subject 25 to 30 years on, and now it is not a big deal. People sometimes are excited to get out of a relationship and excited to get into another one because of the newness of that. So I think that if you truly love your partner, if family life is something really important for you, then it is important to hold on to the marriage, to the institution of marriage, because I have seen many of people I've seen many people who get divorces in their early 30s, late 30s, and then they struggle to find another partner who will be, pertaining to their choices, because they're trying to avoid a certain kind of partner. And I have seen at least 7 to 8 cases out of 10, they end up not being married to people in 5 or 6, 7 years also after their first divorce, and many times settling rather than getting a more capable partner. So if you want to settle anyways because you're not finding an appropriate partner, why not work on the first one itself rather than going through this huge roller coaster of marriage, instability, emotional upheavals, only to settle 4 or 5 years down the line with somebody who may be not as good or as capable or similar to the partner that you broke off your ties with. So friends, this is more like a warning to you and more like placements signifying troublesome periods for you. Be careful, work hard on your relationship. Attitude is most important than just placements to keep the married life going. And if you have a partner who you are more or less okay with, happy with, there are not too many upheavals, then hold on to the thread of the marital relationship rather than going through a discord. So friends, like this video, share this video, and if you're looking for a personal consultation from me, please reach out to me, the link given below. Till some other time with some other video, this is your friend astrologer and guide Irfan signing off. Ciao.